Set it early. 20.
Listening to all Chiefed Up, the best damn Kansas City Chiefs podcast in the kingdom.
Chiefs Kingdom ACU crew, welcome back to another live podcast for that ass. Just wanted to jump on here today, talk a little bit more about the Marquise Brown, the Hollywood Brown signing and free agency. This is a big one. It's a big one. We got a lot of questions last night, so I wanted to jump on. I wanted to touch base with this. A lot of people said, hey, convince me. Convince me. Is Hollywood Brown worth the signing? Convince me. That's what they said. You know, like if Hollywood wasn't good enough, that I had to convince you. That's what we had to do. So I'm here to convince you just a little bit. Let me blow this up. We'll just jump right into it. Full screen. This was Hollywood Brown's numbers from last year. You've got to remember, this guy was playing with backup quarterbacks all season long. Josh Dobbs, then he gets traded to the Vikings. Just bad quarterback play. But if you look down the board, offensive grades, almost everything is in green. He had about 5-6 weeks where it was like orange, dark orange, and again, just bad QB play. Nothing to do with Hollywood Brown. His receiving grades, green down the board, again, almost the same weeks that he had the rough weeks. QB play. It's all QB play. That's everything that Hollywood Brown had to deal with, was just horrible QB play. That's all there is to it. With Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to have that anymore. So I went in, I dug around, found some stuff that should start to convince some people what's going on. A lot of people say, hey, he can't catch the ball. He can't catch the ball. Matt Miller, NFL Draft Scout, says Hollywood Brown had a drop rate of 3% last year. For his career, his drop rate is 3.6. Even if you round that up to 4%, that's not that bad. He says, y'all just be out here saying stuff. 100% correct. Anybody that thinks Hollywood Brown can't catch the football, you're living in a fantasy land. He had one drop last season. He had one drop last season in Arizona. With all the bad QB play, he had one drop. This was another one I thought was interesting. Warren Sharp come out and said Marquise Brown hasn't known what it's like to play in a heavy pass-first offense. Baltimore's pass rate with Greg Roman was number 29. They only passed the ball 51% of the time. We say that all the time. Good quarterback, Lamar Jackson, but they run the ball. It's a heavy run team. Why do you think they prioritized King Henry in the offseason? Heavy run, always has been. 51% passing. In Arizona, under Cliff Kingsbury and Petzing, number 16 in the league at just 54%. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, number one, all the way back to 2019. We're passing the ball 64% of the time, 66% of the time on 3 of those, 65% of the time in 2021. He's going to have more opportunities here. It's going to be insane. Again, more opportunities. And if you just look at this past season, the guy had 51 receptions, only 574 yards, didn't get a single yard in the last 2 weeks. That's how bad Arizona is. And a lot of people say, hey, look, touchdowns. He only had 4. Dude, Arizona probably only scored 10 touchdowns on the season, and the Cat got 4 of them. Like, Arizona is just not... It's not a dynamic offense. It never is. Look back in 2022 when he went. He only had 3 touchdowns with Arizona, 709 yards, 67 receptions. Why? Kyler Murray. Again, I'm going to tell you this over and over. If you think Kyler Murray is a franchise quarterback, in which the Cardinals do, they're insane. They're insane. He might be really good at, racking up double XP weekends for Call of Duty. He might be really good with the latest meta weapon over there. But he's not a great quarterback in the NFL. He's just not. And so when he was traded to Arizona, technically it was a 2-year slump. No wonder he wanted to get out of there. No wonder Marquise Brown said, look, I'm not getting a lot of interest on the market. I was under the personal assumption that Marquise Brown, once Calvin Ridley got his money, he probably should have got some money. But it didn't work that way. Ridley was a little more proven. Ridley got thrown the bag. The Titans overpaid him. By the way, if you go back and watch, if you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, if you go back and listen to, I think, our last podcast, at the very end of the podcast, we were talking about where free agents could end up. Steve asked me, he said, Mike, where do you think Calvin Ridley goes? I had 3 dark horse teams. One was the Detroit Lions. No, he did not go there. One was the New York Giants. I felt like they needed a weapon, but he did not go there. The last team I threw out to Steve was the Tennessee Titans to get Will Levis a security blanket underneath. And I hit that one. I just think there was something about Calvin Ridley and the Titans that made sense. They were on my short list. I honestly thought the Titans were a better fit, obviously, all the way around than the Patriots. But I thought the Titans should have been in play more than the Patriots. I just don't think they kept it under wraps a lot more than the Patriots. But by the way, the steal that Brett Veach got Marquise Brown, it's insane. It's insane what he was able to do there. Again, we've talked about the pass-heavy scheme. We've talked about the drop rate. Let's talk a little bit about the speed, baby, because we all know Hollywood Brown's speed. He's running a 4.2. He's running a 4.3 at a 40 on his pro day. It's insane. Next-gen stats come out and said Marquise Brown has reached 20-plus miles per hour on 33 routes since 2020. Second most in the NFL behind former Chief Tyreek Hill. Brown will look to add speed to a Kansas City wide receiver room that reached 20-plus mile per hour on a route just 5 times last season, the 6th fewest in the NFL. Hollywood Brown brings immediate speed. And by the way, what kind of speed? He brings Tyreek Hill-esque speed more than anybody else in football. So we weren't getting back Tyreek Hill anytime soon. So who's best? Go get Marquise Brown. That's your next guy. By the way, Jalen Waddle was thrown around a little bit, was thrown around in a crazy scenario for Trent McDuffie, and I get why people wanted to shoot that one down. But Jalen Waddle would have fit our offense. Marquise Valdes-Scantling was 4th on the list. Marquise Valdes-Scantling just couldn't get open. He couldn't catch the ball when he was open. That was his knock. Brandon Cooks is getting a little too old. Marquise Brown was the best option. This is one of the reasons me and Steve had Marquise Brown as our number 1 free agent fit. If we would have known, by the way, this was Marquise Brown at a average annual cap market value estimation of 14 to 15 million. If we would have known you could assign this cat for $7 million a year plus incentives, he would have been so far number 1, he would have just had his own graphic. He fits everything we do. He's a yak guy. He can make the tough catch. He can track the deep ball. He's everything you want out of a wide receiver that can stretch the field. He's everything you want. Curtis Samuel could have done it as well. And by the way, he signed for like $8 million. I can't believe we got Marquise Brown cheaper than Curtis Samuel, but I'm telling you why. Once you go back and look at the stats, again, if you look at what he had to endure in Arizona the past 2 years, it's got teams saying, hey, we don't know where you're at. We don't know where you're at. Brett Veach said, hey, I know who he is. I know the player he is. I know that he's not being used properly. We will use him that way. Come here, take a little bit less this year, maybe win yourself a ring, prove yourself, and look, we'll either sign you long-term or you can go out and grab a big old bag next season. And that's exactly what he did. He bet on himself the same way Chris Jones bet on himself last year. This is big. And again, I took a lot of heat. On X yesterday because I was under the assumption that Marquise Hollywood Brown would have seen what Calvin Ridley got, and he would have said, there's in no world would I have thought Calvin Ridley would sign for $23 million per, and Marquise Hollywood Brown would sign for $7 million with incentives up to $11 million. That is flat out insane. I have no idea how that happened. And again, it has to just be because of the Cardinals putting a damper on them for 2 years. I didn't think there was that big of a gap there. I really didn't. And I come out and I said, look, you're crazy if you think you can get him for $6 million per year plus incentives. You're insane. And then lo and behold, Brett Veach pulls off $7 million with incentives. Makes me look like a horse's ass. But I'll tell you this, I don't think anybody in the world seen that coming, because that was insanity. That was just one of the most swindling contracts I've ever seen. This may be the best value contract Brett Veach has ever been able to sign and pull off here in Kansas City. This is big. It's a big one, man. It really is. Let's go back. We've talked about speed. We've talked about drop rate. 4% for his entire career. Actually a 3.6. He's never in a pass-heavy scheme. Let's talk about separation. Target separation versus man. He gets over 2 yards of target separation when he's man-to-man covered. That is 6 feet. That is his body length. He creates a full body length plus inches versus man-to-man. Versus zone, he creates 2.34 yards of separation. That is literally 7 feet. That is 7 feet of separation. That is flat out insane. His win rate versus man, 31.5%. Not the greatest. Not the greatest. You would love it if you could get that up to 50%. By the way, he's the only receiver in Arizona. He was basically the only receiver in Baltimore when he was there. And they didn't even pass the ball a lot. So it's hard to win those kind of matchups. It really is when you're not really running routes consistently. So 31.5%, not bad. I think in Kansas City, it well beats 31.5%. I think he'll be closer to 40% this year. And by the way, his zone was 41.6% win rate versus zone. So if you watched anything about Chiefs football, you've seen the reason Rashee Rice was awesome. It was because he figured out how to work a zone. Halfway through the season, he figured out how to get open during a zone, and it changed his entire trajectory for the season. Again, health. Bill Barnwell says the last time Hollywood Brown was healthy and his QB was healthy and was in a somewhat pass-friendly offense, which was weeks 1 through 6 in 2022, his prorated line from that stretch would have been 122 catches, 1,374 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That just shows how productive he is when he had a healthy quarterback, when he himself was healthy, and they were putting the pass before the run, which is what the Chiefs do a lot of times. So I think your prorated line right here, 122, 1,374, and 8 touchdowns, to me, I'll say that's probably a ceiling in Kansas City in the first year, but I'll say his floor ain't going to be much worse. I'd say his floor is somewhere around 85, 90 catches. I'd say his floor is somewhere around 950 to 1,000 yards minimum, and maybe even closer to 1,100. And I think his touchdowns, 8 touchdowns is a lot. Patrick Mahomes don't really like to throw to wide receivers a lot in the red zone. He'll look to Kelsey. They do a lot of run stuff. They do a lot of, a lot of trick plays, a lot of dump down screens and running back passes, and Patrick will take off every now and then. I think his touchdown total is somewhere around, I'm going to say 6, but I don't think 8's far off. I think he can get to at least 6 touchdowns. And then the last thing I want to show is I found 2 games last year where he absolutely dominated some of the biggest corners in the game. Deron Bland, 22, 95.7% rate thrown at him. He had 7 catches, 1 in the red zone. My bad, 7 targets, 1 in the red zone. He caught 5 of them for 1 touchdown and 61 yards. And Deron Bland was matched up on him 97% of the time. Against the 49ers, Charvarius Ward was matched up on him almost 95% of the time. He had 10 targets. He caught 7 balls for 96 yards. The dude can flat out play. I actually got some clips from some of these games as well. You'll see him here versus the 49ers. Now here, the 49ers sit in a zone Watch it how Marquise gets behind the linebackers, comes across the field, and that linebacker is toast. He's toast. Look at him work that zone, and then the moves after the catch. Here he is against Dallas. He comes in the red zone. You see him get behind the linebackers again. 21 cannot keep up badly. Piss poor thrown ball right there. He had to stop, come back and breadbasket catch it. But the throw should have been a little bit more back pylon. Let's put it that way. But the dude can play. He can play in the. I tell you where he flourishes. He had the most catches on third down. He had the most catches when his team's behind. And that's what you want to see. You want to see him trust him. This play right here just shows you what he will be able to do in the Chiefs offense. That right there looks like what you're going to see a lot. How many times has Kansas City run these kind of routes? I mean, they run these routes all the time in the red zone. At the goal line. They do this all the time. Zone threat. I think Hollywood Brown's going to be completely fine here. I hope that this first 15, 16 minutes of this, and I just jumped right in, and I'm sorry I've ignored everybody, and I haven't even said hello, what's up, what's going on today. But I just wanted to convince you. I wanted to convince the people that need convincing that I do believe Hollywood Brown was a good signing, and I believe he's going to make a big difference. So with that being said, I'll get to the chat here just a little bit. I want to welcome you here. I appreciate you staying with me. I'm sorry it took me 17 minutes to acknowledge you guys. I'm fired up about Hollywood Brown. That's all there is to it. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Hit that like button for me if you don't care. It takes just a quick second. It'll get that out to everybody. Please click it. Click it. Share it with a friend if you got somebody that likes it. Throw it up on TikTok. Throw it up on Twitter. Not TikTok. Twitter. I said the wrong one. Yeah, man. Let people know where to come get some good Chiefs content. We're all chiefed up. If you haven't hit that sub button yet, hit that sub button, baby. But I hope you guys are stoked. Straight up stoked, says John Clifford. I hope everybody's as stoked as John Clifford about Hollywood Brown coming to KC. And Hollywood looked like he was a little pumped too last night. He was on his Twitch just dancing, having a good time, man. And again, I just think this is a good one. I think this is a perfect match. I think this was a lot of people were saying Darnell Mooney was the perfect match. To me, it made more sense that Hollywood Brown was the perfect match. Everything about his game, the way he conducts himself as a receiver on the field, the way he moves, the way he runs, he's got those Tyreek Hill qualities. He really does. And if we use him the same way we use Tyreek Hill, it's on. It's on. I'll just say that. Yeah. So again, thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to get to the comments in just a few seconds. But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about more things that the Chiefs have done in free agency. Because a lot of people are asking us, hey, are the Chiefs done? Are the Chiefs done? I don't think the Chiefs are necessarily completely done, but I think the big splash moves are done. And I think it all has to do with the caps. Now, I do think last night we had a report. Okay, there was a report that come out that said the Chiefs, they think there's a holdup with the L'Jarius Sneed trade because they think the Chiefs are trying to get a reworked contract done. I don't know. I'm still convinced. There was a few teams we were convinced may try to trade for them. They were both in the AFC South. That was the Titans and the Colts. Okay. I thought the Rams could have been in play at some point, but I think they're completely out. I think it's the Titans and the Colts. And I'll say this. There's some smoke coming out about the Colts today. Somebody said that there may be a deal in the works right now with the Colts, and they're just waiting on particulars of a re-sign contract extension to make it public, and that Sneed could be with the Colts. And again, it makes total sense because why? I've got to head off to work in a little while. Steve's not here. So they'll do it at the weirdest, most inopportune time so we cannot jump online and talk with you guys. I understand this. It may happen right now because I'm doing a Hollywood Brown video. So see, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to tell you, appreciate you, Ron, for the one gifted sub, my boy. Ron with a gifted membership. Appreciate you, Ron. You are the man. But I will say, yes. So we've got some trade scenarios. If you've been following me, I've been throwing out some L'Jarius Sneed trade scenarios every day on X at All Chiefed Up on all social media. Get over there and follow us on X. We're about to hit 10K I believe. We're at 9,129 over there. So we're getting ready to hit 10K there. I'm going to share this tab, and I'll talk to you about this trade. This is what I come up with today. This was Colts get L'Jarius Sneed, Chiefs get a 20, and the Chiefs 2024 5th-round pick, so number 173. The Chiefs in return would get their number 46. They do the pick swap, which means we will move up essentially 22 spots. Now, I do believe that right there is probably too much. A lot of people are going to say, that doesn't even start to cover it. We've had a lot of people say this isn't even enough. I think this is too much. I think everybody's going to be very surprised, very let down, and very pissed off at Brett Veach once they see the actual compensation we're going to be able to get here. And why? The market's down. There's some good corners in the draft. The teams that really need corners a lot, like the Colts, they do pick at number 14 or 15, I believe. They pick pretty high. I had them, penciled in to take Terry and Arnold, Nate Wiggins, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. So many good ones there. They could almost set at number 46 here in this fake scenario, and they could have got a Kool-Aid McKinstry possibly. You could have got an Ennis Rakestraw out of Mizzou. So many guys you could have looked at. And by the way, they also just re-signed Kenny Moore II to a long-term deal. He's like that little slot corner, the little nickelback. They made him the highest paid one. So 3 years, $30 million. You would say, well, they don't have a lot of cap. They still got a lot of cap. I think they still got estimated like $29 million, somewhere in that ballpark. They could still do it. And if you paired Kenny Moore in the slot, that's basically like saying, hey, there's McDuffie. And then on the outside, you would have Sneed. I think the Colts could be in play here because the Colts got to do something. The Colts have to do something, guys. The Colts cannot afford to sit back and be idle. You're getting back Anthony Richardson this year. I believe in the first round, you have a very good chance of maybe landing a Brock Bowers. Increase the offensive side of the ball here. Give Anthony Richardson more playmakers and do the defense this kind of way. Retain Kenny Moore. Maybe trade your second-round pick to the Chiefs. Maybe bring in L'Jarius Sneed. I think the defense helps. But the Texans have been loading up. You've got to keep pace with the Texans. My God, they have signed anybody and everybody this offseason. The Texans have signed them. They even traded for Joe Mixon. The Texans are loading up. They think that they're there. I think I would have waited until Patrick Mahomes retired before I'd have tried to go all in. But that's what they're doing. They're going all in. Jacksonville, very good team, and they are continuing to load up. They did lose Ridley. That's going to hurt a little bit, but they're a pretty solid team across the board anyway. And then the Titans, we've seen the Titans. They're loading up. There goes Ridley. Same division. Will Levis coming back in the second year. Still got D-Hop. They're going to take a big old offensive tackle. They're going to take a big monstrous tackle. May even take another Rome Odunze. Could you imagine that wide receiver trio? Hopkins, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, somebody like that. And then you add Calvin Ridley to it. The Colts' best way to do this is to bring in a L'Jarius Sneed. You want to counteract all these big receivers, go bring in L'Jarius Sneed. That's the way I see it. I think that would be a win-win. I think a lot more people are starting to like this trade than they've liked all the other ones. The only reason I can see is because they think the second round, number 46, was more in the ballpark of what they liked. But I still don't know if you can get that 46. It may be I think a lot of people may be kind of surprised. And I've been wrong. I've been completely wrong. I was wrong yesterday about Marquise Brown. But I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a third-round pick and maybe we swap a pick here and there, or they give us something next year, or a couple late picks with a third. Or you never really know, because I'll tell you why. It's not that what Sneed's value is. It's that we just really can't afford him. You want to let Sneed go somewhere where he can get paid. You want to do well by him. And then also, it's kind of one of those things like, well, you got to get something out of them. And I think draft capital in this year's draft, any draft capital for Brett Veach is good. Chief Kelsey had actually commented on this on X, and he said that this would be a great trade if you can now take this second round pick, number 46, or our second round pick, which is like 64, I believe, off the top of my head. If you could take one of those and you could package it with number 32, and you could try to get up in the draft for an offensive tackle, a big offensive tackle. And that is a great idea, because There's one name that I keep seeing that's kind of falling down draft boards just a little bit. There were a lot of teams at his pro day the other day at Oregon State, and that's Talise Fuanga from Oregon State. The Chiefs, Andy Reid, have talked to him. Now, just before his pro day the other day, I was under the assumption that Fuanga was kind of falling down the board just a little bit. It wasn't going to be this crazy slide, but originally it was said he was a top 10 lock. But Troy Fautanu from Washington just figured out that he's got long arms and could play left tackle because everybody thought he was going to be a guard. But now with his emergence coming in and the Jets trading for the offensive tackle at 10, it's possible that Fuanga could fall down to the 14, 15 range. So if the Chiefs could maybe take 32 in an early second with this pick, come up to like, say, 16, 17 to snag Fuanga if he was to go down, that's a monster draft. Now, again, that kind of gives up on Wanye just a little bit, but at the same time, Wanye's he's just going to be that really solid swing guy that can go up and down the line for years to come. And just so happens, if we can't re-sign back Trey Smith next year, maybe he can step in at right guard and do a heck of a job. So I just think you can't always just be like, well, we got Wanye. I think you always got to keep upgrading, and I think if you can get your hands on a Talise Fuanga out of Oregon State, that is a generational type tackle prospect. I think that's huge. He would pretty much be Patrick Mahomes' left tackle for his career. Like, you could pretty much say that, and he's a big, mammoth guy. So, but this was the L'Jarius Sneed trade for the day. I thought you guys would have fun with that one. Again, a lot of people don't love it. A lot of people just don't want to see Sneed go. And look, I agree. I would love to keep Sneed here, but Veach has built this team to be super deep at corner. We've got picks this year. You're going to get more picks where you probably snag a corner. Best player available. If we don't move up in the first round, which means they may be they may be just pumped about Ennis Rakestraw. They've met with him already. They could get him at 32 more than likely. And he's kind of Sneed. He's kind of the Sneed body type, the kind of the man-to-man, tough, physical corner. And then you're going to have 4 to 5 years of a rookie contract to put him with. So I just think we're a really good team at developing corner talent. And I believe it's time to do right by Sneed. I believe he's 27. He's had a little bit of a knee injury that's kind of nagging. He had it drained a few times. So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's fine. Look, let's do right by Sneed. We don't always have to we don't always have to be like the bearer of bad news and just be like, no, Sneed, you're going to play on the tag. You're not going to go get, your payday, blah, blah, blah. We're going to cheap you. We're going to lowball you. No, just let him go. Let's get it. And it'll be fine. We'll be completely fine. I just want to see Sneed have a good one, for real. I think Sneed deserves to have a big payday. I mean, he's earned it. So I'm completely fine with that one. But yeah, so some more free agency talk, though. We signed back Chris Jones, and look, a lot of people forget because that didn't happen during the tampering period, but Chris Jones was a huge sign. And believe me, that took up a decent amount of cap, but it didn't at the same time. It only took up 7.5 or something around that this year. We did snag Marquise Brown. That's the other big one. But we got Drew Tranquil back on a 3-year, $19 million deal with $13 million guaranteed. Now that was Brett Veach investing in the linebacker of the future. He found the guy he wanted, and he put him on a 3-year deal. Everybody else, he's 1-year dealing to death. He's been doing this for years. He's the king of the 1 year. So you got Turk Wharton back on another 1 year. You got Irv Smith that played for the Bengals. He went to Alabama. They got him on a 1 year. That's going to upgrade. That's going to upgrade, in my opinion, the floor. That upgrades the floor of the – I'll share this with you guys. That's going to upgrade the floor of the tight end room. And to be honest, he signed at like 1.25. That's not even guaranteed that he'll make the roster at this point. I think Matt Bushman is still in play. I think they could go to the draft. You still got Theo Johnson out of Penn State. You could possibly still snag Jatavion Sanders if you was to get that second-round pick and you don't use that second-round pick, number 40, what was it, with the Colts? It was number 46. That's right at about the spot Jatavion Sanders could come off the board. And that's a tight end, but that's also a pass-catching option. Jatavion Sanders is more just a tight end. He's a piece you can move up and down. He can play all the way. He can play the wide receiver position. He's very much like a Travis Kelce in that way, to where like he's just not a tight end. Like, he's a pass catcher. And that's what Brock Bowers is too. He's just a weapon. I know they have tight ends next to him, but him and Jatavion Sanders are just weapons. You can use them anywhere. So I do believe that is something. And then Irv Smith may not make the team, but if he does make the team, cool. It was a solid signing. Like, I know me and Steve made fun of it. We're like, ooh, Irv Smith with the big splash. Nothing against Irv Smith, nothing against anything else. It's just the point that, hey, we were sitting back waiting. Like, we have to work on this Marquise Brown thing. We have to do something. And it just wasn't happening. But again, Brett Veach does things on his own time. So it is what it is. We got back Derek Nottie on him 1 year. Again, not opposed to this one either. I thought it was just kind of weird that we just keep 1 yearing these guys to death. Like, we're going to bring back the full entirety of the defensive tackle. Even signing back Pinnell to a 1 year. That's going to come up in a minute. I know you're going to see that. And, yeah, we wasn't the best run stuffing defense. Okay? But we were serviceable enough to win. So I think you win with what you have. You win with familiarity with Spags, and Spags has familiarity with these players. So I believe that that's what they were banking on there. And I think you look to the draft and maybe grab somebody. Maybe in the second, maybe in the third, maybe in the fourth. Maybe you find a good steal back in the 6th or 7th rounds, and maybe you get something out of that. We got Deion Bush back on a 1 year deal. I think that pretty much means Mike Edwards might be out the door. I mean, Mike Edwards did some good stuff for us. We relied on him a lot when Brian Cook got injured. But I do believe that maybe Deion Bush kind of takes the Mike Edwards. Maybe they just don't think they could sign Mike Edwards back to a decent enough contract. But that was everything that happened. And then, of course, look at this one popped up. The Steelers are trading Kenny Pickett to the Eagles because Kenny Pickett said he's not going to concede the starter role to Russell Wilson. And I think it's a little weird because Kenny Pickett, by the way, he didn't show that he's an elite guy, but Kenny Pickett he showed he could win. And I don't know, 2 years giving up on a first round pick like that is just kind of strange in my opinion. But yeah, they traded him to the Eagles. And then that still makes Justin Fields just like, where is Justin Fields going? This is getting insane. Also, some other big news today, and this is non-Chief related, but it was reported that the Vikings have now acquired another first-round pick. Now, the reasoning behind that, to me, is I was telling Steve this yesterday. The Vikings they've got Sam Darnold, but he's not the QB of the future. I think they are eyeing J.J. McCarthy. And I keep telling Steve that J.J. McCarthy is the hottest name in the draft right now, and I do believe he will go top 6, 7. So word come out that the Giants are apparently looking at McCarthy. I think they draft 6th or 7th. The Vikings have to get up and get McCarthy. Now, what this means to me is if you look at any kind of trade value chart, the pick they grabbed and their pick at number 11, this makes perfect sense to package those two and come up in the first probably 4 to 6 picks. Now, look, number 1 is going to be Caleb Williams and the Bears. No doubt. Number 2, I still believe that the Commanders are going to take Jaden Daniels. But if they shock the world and take Drake May, okay, cool. They did sign Mariota. Mariota kind of plays like Drake May, kind of plays like Jaden Daniels. I still think it's up in the air there. But number 3, I think the Pats, look, they signed Jacoby Brissett, so it makes you look like you don't have to take a QB, and maybe they don't. If the Vikings blow their schlong off with a good deal, maybe they do fall back and just take a nice playmaker at number 11 and pick up some draft capital. But I really think they have to get a QB of the future. And I think between Jaden Daniel and Drake May, I think you got to take one of those two, whichever one's left. Now, what's weird is they hit once with Michigan and Tom Brady by accident. What if they shocked the world at number 3 and took J.J. McCarthy over Drake May, for example? That could be wild. Nobody's talking about that one. But that could be a dark horse kind of pick there. But let's just say they go with May at number 3. The Cardinals at 4. That is a spot where a lot of teams are going to try to come up. But I don't think the Cardinals the Cardinals cannot trade back to 11. The Cardinals need a lot of things. They need some pass rushers. They need some offensive line help. They just got rid of DJ Humphries at left tackle. They also need some playmakers. They just lost Hollywood Brown. At number 4, you've got your pick of wide receivers. So if you like Malik Neighbors, if you like Marvin Harrison Jr., whichever one, if you are one of the small few that's got Roma Dunze at the number 1, well, you've got your pick. But if you go back to number 11, you're not getting none of that. You're not getting any of it. You lose out on every bit of it. Now, you could still probably grab a tackle back there. But I don't think you're going to get one of those big playmakers at wide receiver. You're definitely not going to get Dallas Turner at number 11, which is the best pass rusher. So I think the Cardinals have to sit, and I think the Cardinals will take Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's a lot of people's number 1 on their draft boards, even above Caleb Williams, if you just look at all the players and what they are in their grades. So I think the Chargers at number 5 will move out with the Vikings, acquire 2 first-round picks, let the Vikings come up to number 5, and Harbaugh will allow it to let J.J. McCarthy be hit. I think that's what they're going to do. I think that's going to be the target is going to be number 5, Chargers. Why? The Chargers could take the Malik Neighbors. They could, but I don't think it's vital. I think they want to pound the ball. I think they want to tackle. And again, you may not get Joe Alt now, but you can go all the way back to number 11. You may get your hands on a J.C. Latham, who, by the way, a very good football player. I don't think J.C. Latham goes out of the top 15. So I think you can get J.C. Latham. You have a chance to get Taliesin Fuanga. You may have a chance to get Troy Fatanu. You've got all those guys sitting there, and if all else fails, you might still have Brock Bowers on the board. So if all else fails, I really do think that's where they're coming up to. And I think number 6 was the Giants. So you've got to jump the Giants, and I don't think the Cardinals are going to play ball unless you just knock their socks off. And I don't know how you could do that. So to me, it's the Chargers. And with the Chiefs, this means the Chargers now get 2 first-round picks, and they may end up with a Bowers. They may end up with a Fuanga. They may end up with a Troy Fatanu. It's insane what they're going to do. And then all the way back, at the pick that the Vikings just give them now that they've acquired, which is in the 20s, they may take the Xavier Worthy guy off the board. They may take the Lad McConkey. They may take your playmaker there. So they're going to be a thorn in our side. They are. Everybody's a thorn in our side. So that's just the way it is. But I do believe that that's probably the way it's going to move. That's the way I would see it. Again, I dig into the draft a lot, but I'm also wrong. I mean, I've been wrong before, but I think that might be what they're gearing up for and how it's going to go. So that would be my opinion. Chris says the Bears going to be collecting 1s, trading out of 1. The only team I think has enough to get the Bears out of number 1 is the Commanders, because I don't think the Bears will fall back no further than number 2. I think that they want to definitely grab Caleb. I think Caleb Williams is by far the best pick according to all GMs. I don't think they think it's that close. But if there was a close one, it's Jaden Daniels. And I think that they have to grab one of those 2. They've been putting pieces all the way around them. Like, look, they're trading for Keenan Allen. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're putting pieces in place to help their quarterback. They just signed, who was it? They just signed the running back. What's his name? Swift. So they're putting pieces in place. Why do you sign Swift? Well, that's a built-in dump down machine, easy completions. So I think that they have to get 1 and 2. But the Commanders want to get the hometown kid. I've heard it. They're talking about they want Caleb Williams in DC. They could do that if you traded that, but they would have to give up probably just to come up 1 pick and take Caleb Williams. You probably have to give up your number 1 pick for the next 2 years to do that. That's the only team I can see trading with the Bears. I don't think the Bears will fall back to number 11 from number 1. I just don't see it. They've got to get that quarterback. Greg Slayton says Pretty Ricky on X is talking about Sneed to the Colts. Who in the world is Pretty Ricky? Is he an insider? Is he an industry insider? Does he work for the NFL and he processes things? And so before they get announced, he processes. It's got to be somebody with some kind of inside knowledge that's bored and didn't think it was going to blow up, and then it did. You can't just be a random person with a magic 8-ball out here picking all this stuff. It's too hard, and the NFL's too random. The NFL's too random. If anybody would have thought Hollywood Brown signs with the Chiefs for $6 million plus incentives, you're out of your mind. $7 million plus incentives. If anybody thinks that Gabe Davis would have signed for $50-some million, you're out of your mind. Like, there's just no way. But yes, Pretty Ricky is calling all this stuff. Shout out him. I don't know who he is, but it's just something crazy. I don't know what's going on there. It's probably going to get banned, but shout out Pretty Ricky. Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know who it is. I don't know. Maybe it's Goodell. Maybe we found Goodell's burner. Who knows? He did miss the Chiefs a little bit, though. I've seen a lot of people giving him tons and tons of credit, but he missed the Chiefs a little bit when he said that they're going to announce the Sneed trade first, and that will allow them to be able to sign Hollywood Brown. So even he was estimating that you were going to have to free up a lot more cap space than the $7 million plus incentives. So even Pretty Ricky was wrong with that one just a little bit. But look, I still think Sneed to the Colts, where there's smoke, there's fire. That could be announced soon. But it also would not surprise me if we didn't announce that we've now re-signed Sneed to a 3-year deal. It wouldn't surprise me, a 4-year deal, but who knows? But yeah, Greg, dude, it's been funny watching Pretty Ricky for sure. Dr. Michael Kollick, what's up, brother? Hope you're a subscriber. Appreciate you being here. He says, hey, Mike, who do you think is willing to trade up for our number 32? Greetings from Germany. Awesome that you're watching from Germany. That's awesome, man. I would love to go over to Germany. It would be so sick to see that country and just everything over there. It would be awesome. Who do I think would trade up? I think this is going to surprise a lot of people, but after Bo Nix pro day at Oregon this past week, I honestly believe now that J.J. McCarthy's being talked about going in the top 5. Okay, I don't think he falls no further than number 5. And I'm thinking the Vikings are coming up to 5. Your next two off the board is Michael Penix and Bo Nix. And after those two, it does kind of fall off. And to be honest, I think Bo and Penix are a little bit behind J.J. McCarthy too. I think there's a big gap there. But the Broncos do not have a second-round pick, and he needs somebody. So it would not surprise me if you see Bo Nix go to the Broncos at like number 12. That would not surprise me one bit. Do I think he's a top 12 pick? No. Where do I have Bo Nix ranked? I think somewhere on my big board, he's like 35 to 45, somewhere in that range. I'm not 100% sure, and I don't have it finalized, but he's right in that range. He's a mid-second round pick to me, early to mid-second round pick. Somebody will like this guy. He is going to blow their socks off with his football knowledge. He's very football knowledgeable. He's got a pretty good work ethic, and he's very accurate. What does that sound like? Kind of sounds like Drew Brees. And then Drew Brees found a way to make that click, and he had a Hall of Fame career. He was amazing with Sean Payton. So, I do believe Bo Nix could be a wild in-play mid-round, which would leave Penix now falling to the end of the first, possibly. Now, maybe somebody could come up and look at Penix. Let me grab a list of draft. Let me grab a list, and I'll look and see who I think the Chiefs could play ball with to answer your question to maybe get out of the first round. Let me see. Who would maybe want to come up? The Panthers at 33 are not coming up. If the Patriots did trade out that pick right there for some draft capital, but they would have 2 in the first round. So more than likely they wouldn't have to come up on 34. The Cardinals are not coming up. The Commanders are not coming up. The Chargers, we would not trade with them. The Titans don't need it. Panthers, Commanders. Maybe the Commanders at number 40 if they wanted to redraft somebody. But somehow is getting traded, more than likely. I don't think the Packers have to come up. Houston's not doing it. The Falcons probably don't do it now that they grab Cousins. We're not going to trade with the Raiders. The Saints at 40. I would say the Saints at 45 because Derek Carr is like that. He's the plateaued QB. Like, you know what you got from him, but he's not like that groundbreaking QB. Maybe the Saints at 45 or even the Giants at 47 could make a play. But, I mean, you're coming up 32 from 45. So 45 or 47 to 32. So you're coming up like a lot of picks. 3, 6, 9, 12. 13 picks for the Saints. 15 picks for the Giants. You would have to give up a second-round pick next year as well as something this year. I think it's a little too rich. I think KC might have trouble getting out of 32 if somebody wants to come get that 5th-year option on a Michael Penix. I think you're in trouble there. I really do. And since you know the Chiefs aren't going to trade with you, you may get I don't think the 49ers do it either. I don't think the 49ers would jump out of the first round. There's nobody that needs the quarterback there at the top of the second enough. There's been enough QB roulette that I don't think you're going to have it because of the Patriots just going to draft probably Drake May at 3. The Cardinals still believe they've got their guy. Washington's probably taking Jaden Daniels at 2. The Panthers just picked number 1, took Bryce Young. The Chargers aren't moving off of pretty boy Ricky. The Titans aren't getting rid of Will Levis that quick, so the Packers aren't getting rid of Jordan Love. The Texans just drafted C.J. Stroud. The Falcons may need a QB to set behind Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins is probably going to play for at least 3 to 4, and I think he's going to retire there. I don't know. I don't think nobody would come up. I think the only way you could do it is maybe if one of these teams like the Panthers maybe wanted to jump into the end of the first round and snag themselves like a Xavier Legette. Okay, maybe they want to get that fifth-year option on a Xavier Legette. But I appreciate you, Michael. Appreciate you, man. Hope you're a subscriber. Thanks for watching from Germany, man. That's awesome. Pop's in the house. He says, T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre Sweat, from everything I'm reading now, he is kind of sliding a little bit. There's not a huge need for the big zero, the zero tech nose guard. There's not tons of need for that. And again, he's 366 pounds. Like, I don't know what they think. Like, of course his conditioning is going to be a little weird and he's going to take some plays off. The dude's 366 pounds. I honestly got him graded in a second round. He's a mid-second round for me. But I'm hearing rumors that T'Vondre Sweat could possibly be there with our pick in the second round. So that could be somebody they look at the back end of the second. Okay, yeah, that's very possible. But yeah, I think bottom second is where I'm looking there now, and then he could possibly slide into the third. Greg says, Pretty Rick is commenting on another person on X that Sneed to the Colts is already agreed to. The only thing announcing the trade is the Colts working on a long-term deal. Yes, I said that at the beginning, that I've heard that the only reason this isn't getting announced is because they're working on the contract numbers with Sneed. Now again, Pretty Ricky's been wrong about some stuff, albeit not very much. I don't know who this guy is. Pretty Ricky, a.k.a. Roger Goodell, apparently. Maybe it's a Ian Rappaport burner or something. Who knows? Yeah, Howe got traded to Seattle yesterday. Yeah, so they're off of Howe, but they're taking Jaden Daniels probably at number 2. They didn't want the QB controversy. They're not doing it. They're just going to go in a new direction. But yeah, I love talking about the drafts. Steve, he doesn't get as fired up about the draft as I do. I'm so fired up, I got to have a drink really quick. But I love talking about the draft, man. That's where I flourish. Greg says Keon Coleman's the next Puka. He's bigger. I don't know if he's as fast. I think he may be faster than Puka actually ran. But there's a thing. To me, my sleeper so far has been Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. I love Ricky Pearsall. Steve is under the impression that Ladd McConkey is the only day one ready route runner outside the top 3 wide receivers, and that his football IQ superior. I think Ricky Pearsall's right there with him. Ricky Pearsall has just as much football IQ. He'll talk your ear off about running routes. He's very smart. He can set you up. He can beat you with any route. Number 2, he is shifty. He has aced every offseason thing there is. He runs a 4.41 40. He's running like crazy shuttle drills and different things. He had a 42-inch vert. He's very much an explosive athlete, and I think he's ready to step in day one. Ricky Pearsall is going to be a steal for somebody. He right now is my Puka Nacua steal, but he has not fallen so far back as Puka. Puka fell back to the 5th, I believe. Ricky is not getting out of the second round. There's been a lot of steam on him as of late. So for me, that's my guy right now. I'm going to keep looking because I want to find somebody that's going to go in the 5th, 6th, 7th round that I can call the steal too. But Ricky Pearsall is my guy there. I really like Ricky Pearsall, man. He played at Arizona State under Herm Edwards. He produced. He went to the Gators at SEC, didn't have the greatest QBs there. He produced. He can win in multiple places, multiple environments. I think he's a guy that's going to come in day one and be the best route runner on your team. I think he loves the game of football. I think he's smart. I think he can learn. He's going to be a sponge and soak up stuff. Would love to see Ricky Pearsall drafted. And if the Chiefs announced him at number 32, I'd be ecstatic. A lot of people would freak out. I'd be ecstatic. I would take Ladd McConkey or Ricky Pearsall at number 32, and I'd be completely happy. But honestly, I think Ricky Pearsall's got less injury concerns. So if you're more of Ladd McConkey, maybe has some injury concerns. He had some ankle stuff. He had some back issues. I think he's past it. But I love Ricky Pearsall, man. I can't talk about Ricky Pearsall enough. I really like him. A lot of people's asking, do you think Brett Veach could possibly give Michael Gallup a 1-year deal, Mike Williams a 1-year deal? I read yesterday that someone is trying to offer Mike Williams a similar deal to Hollywood Brown, a 1-year prove-it deal right around $8 million. It wasn't the Chiefs. I know that sounds like Brett Veach, his doing. It wasn't the Chiefs, though. It was who was it? I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're wanting a prove-it deal. Does Mike Williams have to take a prove-it deal? I don't know. He's proven that he's a good quarterback. I guess a prove-it deal to see if you can stay healthy. I guess that's your prove-it. I guess that's your prove-it deal, to be honest. Can you stay healthy for a season? And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think he will. I really don't think he will. Just reading some comments. Brian Ward says that he would not take that L'Jarius Sneed pick. Oh, the trade with the Colts. He wants their first round number 15 and a swap later. That's the kind of stuff. That is the most off-base kind of stuff. There is no way anybody's giving up a top 15 pick for a 27-year-old corner with some knee issues. Again, they're not super lingering. They didn't make him miss any games, but it is known they will use that. Sneed, I love L'Jarius Sneed. He's being overvalued too much. He had one pretty good season. He had 2 pretty solid seasons, and he had a great season. If he was able to do great seasons back to back to back, you could start talking about a definite first round. But he's had one great season, and something tells me that he probably will not be able to back that up again. He's probably going to allow a touchdown next year. I'm sorry, but you're not going to go 2 years without a touchdown given up, okay? He's not worth the number 15. You're out of your mind if you think that they're going to give up number 15 and they're going to pick swap later in the draft. You guys are going to be very mistaken, and you're going to be very bummed and just flat out angry at Brett Veach when you see the kind of pick compensation. I do not see that. If it's the Colts, I would be willing to say 99.99999% it's not going to be that number 15 pick. It's just not. There's no way. I just cannot see it. Joey says, my bad, I clicked the wrong thing. Michael Thomas or Michael Gallup. Is Michael Thomas available? I know people have thrown him out, but I haven't seen anything on him. Last time I've seen, he was still under contract. Saints release. Okay, so they did it yesterday. I missed it somehow. Yeah, I was under the impression, I was like, what in the world? Why is everybody talking about Michael Thomas, bro? Like, I thought he was still under contract. So the Saints did release him yesterday. I think Tyreek Hill's trying to, like, get him to Miami. Go figure. Miami, they're like the Eagles of the AFC, man. They just sign anybody, everybody. The cap doesn't matter. They just do what they want. If I had to choose out of these two, I would honestly rather take the flyer on Michael Thomas. I think we've seen what Gallup offers you. And honestly, I don't think Gallup offers you anything different than what now you're going to get from Brown and Rice, or a combination of the two. But Michael Thomas gives you the true X, and we do not have a true X. This also maybe would allow Justin Ross again to have somebody that he can now model his game after, learn from, and maybe he can make some strides. So if you could get Michael Thomas on a 1-year deal similar to the Hollywood Brown, I would like that. And why? You would now have Michael Thomas, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice. That would be basically your 3 that you would play. And then you're going to have Justin Watson there. I think Kadarius Toney, and I think Sky Moore is there. And if you want to go 7, it's going to be Justin Ross. But I think at some point you've got to give up on one of these. Sorry. And I think that who you give up on is going to come down to, is it going to be Kadarius Toney? Are they going to give up on Toney, or are they going to give up on Justin Ross? I think that's your big one. They could shock you, and they could save the $2 million and cut Justin Watson. But Justin Watson and Patrick Mahomes, they kind of have a little bit of trust built. I think Justin Watson's a good guy to have in case there's ever an injury. He's just a guy that's smart. He's always he's pretty good hands. He did drop a few, of course. They all had drop-itis out there last year, but Pretty good hands. He runs good routes. He's very, very fast. He's deceptively fast. So I think he fits what the Chiefs do, and he's got that little bit of familiarity. It would surprise me if we cut him for the 2 years, and I don't think you can move off Sky Moore for what he cost. Again, it's weird because moving off Kadarius Toney don't make sense either, because he's basically, it would be like you would just lose money on that somehow. But if you have to take room, I guess you could put Kadarius Toney on the practice squad and let somebody poach him. I mean, who knows? Maybe you could trade Kadarius Toney off for like a 7th-round pick at this point. Would somebody do it? I don't know. The NFL's weird. You may be able to take somebody, get a flyer on him for like a 6th or a 7th. I would say you could do it with Sky Moore too. I just don't know if he's got any. I don't know if he's got enough film out there, whereas Kadarius Toney does. I don't know if he's got enough film out there to warrant a 6th or 7th round pick. Definitely probably not a 6th. I bet Sky Moore would be lucky to get you a 7th or a future comp pick or something. Who knows? But yeah, I don't think he's got much. So Kadarius Toney would be the guy I think you would have to decide. Are you going to give up on Toney or are you going to give up on Justin Ross? Personally, I would rather have, I know Toney's dynamic, but if you could pull in Michael Thomas, I would rather keep Justin Ross around and see if he could teach him a few things. See if he can get him to figure it out, elevate that game, and model it. That's just me though, but good question. Appreciate you, man. Let me get down here. Let me catch up to the chat, see what's going on. Brandon Chester says Watson is a great 4th, 5th option. Agreed. I think so. John says Toney should be toast. I also agree with that one. But KT is depth. Julia, you're right. You're 100% right. So it's weird. We're not going to end up in the same situation where we're taking 7. I just don't think they put themselves back in that situation. So now it's got 6. If you sign Michael Thomas, okay, again, Kadarius Toney, okay, let's just talk this out one more time. Because right now, you've got Rashee Rice and you've got Hollywood Brown. Now, if you take a flyer on Michael Thomas, Gallup, Mike Williams, that would be 3, and they're all going to make the roster. Now, the Chiefs, that would give you 3 more. Now, we know the Chiefs are going to draft somebody. This is a deep wide receiver draft, so whoever they draft would be 4, and they could maybe double dip. That would be 5, but we'll just say 4 for now. I don't think Justin Ross goes or not Justin Ross. I don't think Justin Watson goes anywhere, and I don't think Sky Moore goes anywhere. So that puts Justin Ross and Kadarius Toney on the outs because I still don't think they take 7. So it's going to get really hairy the more you start signing here. And again, I think a lot of people would be fine to take Mike Williams on a 1 year, Michael Thomas on a 1 year, Michael Gallup on a 1 year, and get rid of Kadarius Toney. A lot of people say get rid of Sky Moore. Not saying it's a bad idea. I just don't think they do it because he's 2 years into a rookie contract. He's basically playing for free. So I just don't think they do that. I think they want to see a little bit more of Sky Moore to see if they really missed or if they're just not using him properly or what. But so I just don't think he goes anywhere. So you're starting to get to that point where like we really can't pick up anybody else if we're looking to go get something in the draft. And this is such a cheap draft, or such a deep draft, by the way, to get a cheap wide receiver for 4 or 5 years, depending on if you can get one in the first. So it's just one of those things where I don't know if Brett Veach is going to sign anybody else in free agency because I don't know if there's room. Joey says Chase Young on a 1 year prove it deal. I would love to see that. He was at the top of our wish list that fit, by the way. Besides Brian Burns, obviously that was you had to put Brian Burns at the top of your list. I mean, he's a dog out there, but Epidesa was 3. He was out. You know, the Bills didn't even let him see the market. Chase Young was our number 2. Why? Because Chase Young is like that stocky, stout guy who can get after the quarterback and set the edge. He does need to maybe sign a prove-it deal, but I don't know if he will. His estimated cap value was below Mike Dana, which is kind of strange in that regard, but I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think the Chiefs are setting themselves up to draft an edge rusher in the draft. Could it be Darius Robinson at 32? Maybe they want their options. Maybe they're like, look, we can now take Darius Robinson at 32. We can still take the receiver. Whoever you like. Maybe Worthy slides that far and people don't get enamored with his speed, or Ladd McConkey slips through the cracks, or maybe they do take a shot at Keon Coleman if he falls. You've got all those options. But I don't know, man. You've even got Ennis Rakestraw and all these guys. You got TJ Tampa. You got a lot of good corners sitting right there. I think that's why it's valuable to get some comp for Sneed. I really do. And it sounds crazy. It's like, well, you would trade Sneed for Ennis Rakestraw? No, I wouldn't. But that's not saying that we cannot develop a guy right there, and he's going to be very cheap for 4 or 5 years. And then we're going to be right back in this situation. We're going to be right back in this situation, guys, with Trent McDuffie here in about 2.5, 3 years. And more than likely, Trent McDuffie will go too. The Chiefs just don't pay corners, and this is just something we have to deal with every so often. This is just what we have to deal with. It's the way it is. Like, I'd love to keep Sneed. I'd love to keep everybody, but it's just not the name of the game, man. We can't afford to pay him. They chose Chris Jones over Sneed. They chose that. They paid him. And I think it's not impossible to get Sneed back. It's really not impossible. If anybody could work it out, it could be Veach. But you got to remember, too, we still got probably 10, 15 more spots we got to fill. Our roster, we still got to fill some spots. We still got to sign our draft picks. We still got to pay all of our guys on the practice squad. It's going to get really tough. JCP says Sneed's instincts can't be taught, so he'd like to keep them. You're right, but you can find corners with good instincts. Again, Ennis Rakestraw, pretty good instincts. TJ Tampa, great football instincts. If you haven't watched anything on TJ Tampa, by the way, this guy is getting overlooked in the corner room. He's from Iowa State. He's a pretty good-sized corner. He's great in the run game. He will come downhill and hit you. He is sticky. He's a little handsy. He is the Sneed of this year's draft, in my opinion. He is L'Jarius Sneed, if you want L'Jarius Sneed Part 2. TJ Tampa. You may be able to get him at number 64. It's possible. To me, I think he's borderline first-round talent, but he could slide through the cracks because there are a lot of corners coming out, like Max Melton, people like that could slide above him. Because Iowa State's not known to have like a groundbreaking defense. But go watch some TJ Tampa. He really has a lot of Sneed qualities. And if you miss out on Sneed, if he goes, then maybe this is a guy that you could look at. And again, we still got Josh Williams and stuff in the wings, and I think he's completely fine. I think Josh Williams can get there too. I think in 2 years you may be looking at me like, no, we don't want to get rid of Josh Williams now. That may happen too. But yeah, it's just one of those things, man. Let me see. What do we got? Tyler. What's up, Tyler? He says, what did I miss? What up, ACU? If you missed anything to this point, you have to go back and watch once the video redrops. I basically was just talking about how some people said, convince me of Hollywood Brown, and I tried to do that. I showed you some win rates. I showed you some of his speed characteristics, his drop percentages, things like that. I'm trying to sell people on the fact that I do think Hollywood was a great signing. I mean, he was number 1 on our list for a reason. We thought he was perfectly, like a perfect fit. So that's what we talked about. And then now we're just talking a little free agency, talking a little draft. Julia says Nick Jones going to open some eyes this season. Yes, everybody's forgetting Nick Jones. Nick Jones hurt himself, but Nick Jones was looking very, very good in his limited time out of Ball State that we took in the 7th round. The kid can play. He can flat out play. Again, look, we're so good at finding good corners. We found Khalif Hallisey in the UDFA market last year, and we were able to trade. We cut him, we cut him. We cut him, and he ended up going to the Browns and making the squad. I think he ended up playing for the Browns. But Khalif Hallisey should have made the team last year. He was good enough. We still got Echo Boy Doe on the roster. He looked good last year. We're developing him. We still got plenty of talent we can develop. And the whole point of the Khalif Hallisey is we can always go to UDFAs and pick up. There's going to be somebody who falls to UDFA that the Chiefs will get and they can turn around. We're going to get Najee Johnson back. And by the way, he was competing for a starting corner spot last year. Najee's coming back off of his ACL. He'll be fine. He'll come back in. He'll compete this year. We're going to be fine at the corner spot without L'Jarius Sneed. Amy says TJ Tampa is a beast and we'll have to snag at 32. Right. There's some. Okay, so like if you go to PFF, I believe PFF is pretty high on TJ Tampa. a lot of other people in some draft analysis are not. If I'm not mistaken, let me go look really quick. I respect Daniel Jeremiah. Daniel Jeremiah used to work in the front office for the Eagles. He was a scout for them. He helped do whatever. If I'm not mistaken, I want to see where he puts TJ Tampa in his top 50. He rolls out every so often. And if I'm not mistaken, okay, so he's got Enos Rakestraw 26. So he's saying now Enos, even dropping 3 spots because he didn't test too well, still ran a 4.51. Not too bad. And Enos also doesn't have a lot of film where teams throwing to him. Why? Chris Abrams-Drain on the other side got tons of like tip balls and things like that, but it's just because they just did not throw it Enos Rakestraw. You're going to notice that in college, when you start looking for top-tier corners, they just don't throw at them, so their numbers are never good. So that's why the numbers look a little pedestrian there. Kamari Laster out of Georgia is another good one. So see, all these are they're kind of overplaying TJ Tampa a little bit. He's now moved Ricky Pearsall up into number 39. He breaks his top 40, goes up 9 spots. I'm glad to see everybody's coming around on Ricky Pearsall. Mike has done the Lord's work helping Ricky Pearsall. He actually has Ricky Pearsall rated 1 spot higher than Xavier Worthy, and he's put Xavier Worthy down to number 41. Let me share this tab with you guys so you can see what I'm doing. Incredible that Xavier Worthy's at 41 right now. This is exactly where I said, haven't I been saying the whole time? Like, I know a lot of people have been enamored with Xavier Worthy so far, but I said, guys, in my opinion, like, I know he's fast, but I think at best he's an early to mid second rounder. 41 is about an early to mid second rounder. Daniel Jeremiah worked for the Eagles and is a NFL.com contributor scout. Okay. And he has finally come to the same realization that I have. Troy Franklin is free falling. I've been saying that too. People's been putting Troy Franklin in the first round. I said, I know. I wouldn't be surprised. To me, I wouldn't take Troy Franklin with the number 64 pick if he was there. I'm just not a big deal. Had this conversation last night with our boy Chris Wright. He said Jordan Morgan in the edge of the first round. He's dropped him 5 spots now and put him as the number 44 player. I had the same thing. He's a year removed from his ACL surgery, and he doesn't do well versus counter moves, and he gets overpowered. He's got some shorter arms than he needs to have. Keon Coleman's taking a big dip. Now, I don't think Keon Coleman is the number 45th player in the draft. I'll disagree here. I think Keon Coleman's better than that. I think I still got a first-round grade on Keon Coleman. So, yeah, top 50. He don't have TJ Tampa in it. So that's what I was wanting to see. He don't have TJ Tampa in his top 50. So see, a lot of like NFL scouts are not putting TJ Tampa there. PFF is one. I'll give them credit. They've done it. But yeah, a lot of people overlooking TJ Tampa. I think TJ Tampa is a good player. I don't quite have a first round grade on him, but he's up there. Lonnie says, what about Cooper DeJean? DeJean's good. He's rangy. I think he can play safety and corner. I think if he wouldn't have broken his leg last season, DeJean was a top 10 pick. I think now that Quinyon Mitchell's had a good offseason, Toledo, he's aced the draft process. I think Terry and Arnold's done a good job out of Alabama. Nate Wiggins is the one guy I'm not so sure. I'm never sold on Clemson corners. Just something about Clemson corners I don't like. I didn't like it when everybody was saying we were going to take Andrew Booth. I said, no, Trent McDuffie's the better corner, and we got Andrew Booth out. I don't like Clemson corners. To me, Wiggins is quick, but he's too long and he's too long and skinny. Like I just think he's going to get bullied. But yeah, so Cooper DeJean, in my opinion, is probably, I think he's my number 3. I think he's my number 3 right now. I think I put Quinyon above him and Terry and Mitchell above him. Terry and Mitchell or Terry and Arnold? I'm crazy. I've lost my mind. Terry and Arnold. Yeah, then Cooper DeJean. I think Cooper DeJean could find himself Pittsburgh, Philly, somebody like that. But yeah, he can play safety. He can play corner. I really like him. Out of Iowa. Good. I mean, he's a good dude. I think he'll come back. He's supposed to be doing everything at the pro. Enrique with a 5-bomb. Enrique, our boy, he says, man, I'm so unpumped up because I'll leave the U.S. this summer, back to Europe and soccer, and I believe the Chiefs will be unbeatable. Enjoy ACU. So you're going to Europe, Enrique, to play some soccer? That's awesome. I didn't know you played soccer. Or do you play soccer? Are you just going to watch soccer? You coach? What do you do? I'm curious here. Appreciate you, Enrique, with the 5-bomb, man. Have a good, safe trip in Europe. Hope you have a good time, man. HD Chiefs fan, been a member for 6 months. He says, will Andy go back to Facebook or continue to use tight end in Facebook? What am I doing? I just had the biggest... Look, I'm glad you guys caught that. Look at me. I just seen FB and Facebook. That's how much I've had to be on social media the past 3 days. Actually, since Monday, scrolling for any and all information I can find. Look at that. Yes, Andy might go back to Facebook. I don't know. Will he go back to a fullback, though? That's what we want to know. Or continue to use a tight end and a dual row? I think he'll just continue to do the tight end. I think that does free up the extra slot on something, the extra roster space. And I just don't know if there's a tight end out there. There's a couple good guys that are used like H-backs in college. Jaheim Bell out of Florida State is a good guy. Ben Sinnott out of K-State can do the dual threat row there as well. He's got some options in the draft to go there. And you can still keep them on the roster, so you can still keep, you can keep 4 tight ends now, right? You can keep Kelsey, Irv, Noah Gray, and maybe you could keep Jaheim Bell or Ben Sinnott. You could keep them as a 4th tight end / fullback, H-back. Could be something like that. But I appreciate you guys, man. Enrique, I'm sorry it took me so long to get to that thing. It didn't even pop up on the screen, man. But I appreciate anybody who's donated, anybody who's hit the like button, anybody who's done anything, shared this, commented, anything, man. Appreciate you guys spending some time with me. I'm going to sit on here for just a few more minutes, and then I'm going to bail out of here. I'm going to try to grab something to eat. I got to head off to work. And then hopefully, I don't know, are we pumped about maybe doing something with Sneed? It's going to be very bittersweet, guys. I know it is. I really do. I know it's going to be bittersweet. A lot of people are not going to like it if he gets traded. A lot of people are just not going to be pleased with the compensation we get in return. You will have a subset like us that have been preparing ourselves. If you guys have been watching us, you guys know we've been preparing you for this Sneed stuff all the way back. And look, and I know, I've said this time and time again, I know that some of the takes we have and some of the ways we look at football, because we like to look at football from a very... You got to remove your fandom a little bit. And I know that gets hard because there's a lot of content creators out here and on X and everywhere you go, and they put their fandom first, and they're not worried about sounding football knowledgeable. They don't care. And I think a lot of Chief fans like that. They love it. And so we get a lot of people coming up and they're like, you guys are just too negative. You got your takes. We don't like you wanted to get rid of Sneed. We were telling you guys before the season that if Sneed didn't play to a great level this year, in which he did, he played great after week 1. We said if he's not playing at that great level, they may have got rid of Sneed mid-season like they did Fenton last year, because we just don't think they're going to play corners. But we were prepared going into this season thinking that this probably was going to be Sneed's last season in KC, barring some kind of miracle that he resigns. And a lot of Chiefs fans just didn't want to hear that. They still don't want to hear it. And they're just not prepared. Like, they're very much in denial over Sneed. And I get it. I like Sneed. But Sneed isn't making or breaking the Chiefs. Like, I'm sorry. That would be the one and only Patrick Mahomes could do that. We will be fine either way. But yeah, so we've been preparing ourselves, but a lot of people I feel like is going to be completely just distraught over this. So I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if we want to see this happen. Personally, I'm excited to get more draft capital. I'm a draft guy. I dig into it, and I think this is a very deep draft class for wide receiver, which we need. It's a very deep draft class for tackles and offensive linemen, which we need. There are steals out there at the linebacker position. There are steals out there at the defensive line and the defensive end position. The corner, the safety. There are steals across the board, guys. And I think Brett Veach if he's going to cook, He's got to get his ingredients, and his ingredients is more draft capital. So I'm very excited to just move off the Sneed thing already and get the draft capital in. So now we can start looking to the draft and seeing what we can do to build for the future. But at the same time, I'm going to be sad to see Sneed go. And if they announce they're signing Sneed, I'm going to be just as equally as happy. Like, believe me, just saying that we don't think that they'll keep Sneed around isn't us saying we don't like L'Jarius Sneed. Not that in any regard. So again, we'll come at things from more of a football angle rather than more of a fan angle. And again, a lot of people don't like that. They don't like it. They prefer to just, they relate more to the people that just want to play the football fan. And I get it. But at the same time, it's just, at the end of the day, I want people to say, hey, that guy understands football. He might not be right about everything he says, but he does understand that football is a business, and he gives me a football take. He doesn't just give me a inflated, rah cheerleader take from the Chiefs at all times. And again, I take heat sometimes because during the season I'm a little critical. I'll be critical of Mahomes. I'll be critical of a win or a loss. Nobody liked it when I said the Jets were going to play us pretty tough last year. Nobody liked that. But the Jets played us pretty tough last year. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And again, I don't try to be negative, and I know it can be perceived as negativity sometimes, but I do it from a place of love every time. It's always just growing up as a Chiefs fan, man, you were always just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Every time there was this hint of success, you waited for the shoe to drop. And now that we're in this dynasty and we got Mahomes and everything, to me, I think it becomes more important for Brett Veach to make the good moves and the right moves. You always want Mahomes to have the best opportunity to keep piling up rings. And so I believe it's smart to keep trying to load up and do things like that. And I know a lot of people's like, well, just trust Veach. And it's like, I get that. And I don't not trust Veach. It's just that from a podcast perspective and somebody that gives thoughts, you have to talk about things. You have to give scenarios. You critique. But in no way do I think I'm smarter than Brett Veach. Steve doesn't either. Like, we don't think that we could run a franchise better. But we have ideas, and so that's what we do. But yeah, man, just like to throw that out there. So yeah, don't hate on us if we have to come back and say that Sneed's gone. It's not our fault, guys. Like, it's not. But yeah, man, I love all you guys for real. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today. I'm excited to get back in, see how these free agent signings are going to impact the Chiefs and what the Chiefs may draft. I've seen a few people, I think it was Brian. Brian said, so we're still in on Theo Johnson. Personally, I still like Theo Johnson, and I think the Chiefs will maybe still look to a tight end. I don't think the Irv Smith thing does anything to move that needle. So I don't even know if Irv makes the team. Let's be honest. Who else? I wanted to answer a couple more. Supnet HD. What's up, brother? He says, when do you expect the Sneed trade to go through? From everything that we're hearing, and again, if you want to buy into the Pretty Ricky stuff on X, they're saying that it's maybe already done, and the only reason it's not announced because they want to figure out terms of his extension with Indy. I'm not 100% buying it, but I do think that where there's smoke, there's fire. And I say that a lot. I really do. So it could be announced as early as tonight. If it's Brett Veach, though, guys, it's going to be announced at like 10 p.m. You know how that's working. But yeah, just whenever it's the most inopportune time for me is when Brett Veach will announce that. I appreciate you, Brett. You're the man. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, though, for real. Appreciate you guys being here. If you just joined, go back and watch. I tried to sell some people on the Hollywood Brown just because there was a lot of people on our Twitter, a lot of people here last night that was like, hey, man, can you convince us of why this is a good pick, man? Or not a pick, but why it was a good pickup. Why is Hollywood Brown, why was he your number one? Why does he fit the Chiefs? So I tried to sell you on that a little bit today. And again, I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to do well. I wish we could keep Sneed. I wish we could see everything. I wish we could keep all these guys, but we just can't. That's just the reality of it, man. I don't remember who tweeted it the other day, but it was a perfect one. Oh, it was Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu. He said, every year teams lose good players, but you got to create new players. And that's what we got to do. I know Sneed is a heck of a corner. He's probably the best in the game at what we ask him to do. but it's just not feasible to always keep these guys. And you want Sneed to go have a good one. You want him to make his money, provide for his family, go do what's best for him. The same way with Willie Gay going down to the boot, playing a little bit down there in New Orleans. Just want to see them have a good time, make the most of their career. You get limited time in this league. We're fans of the franchise, so we always want to see teams take pay cuts and players take pay cuts and stuff. But, players got to look out for themselves, because believe me, they will cut people in a heartbeat, man. They don't really care too much about you. But so yeah, just hope Sneed has a good one. Before I get off here, JCP, remember 2 months. Appreciate you, brother. He says Hollywood hasn't hit his potential yet. 1,000%, JCP. He's not hit his potential. I believe you are going to see a breakout year from Hollywood Brown, barring any kind of odd injury or something like that. I believe he's going to have a monster season. TGZ with a 5 bomb. He said, watch Hollywood's highlights from last season. Took big hits and held onto the ball. He's a dog. He's good, man. His entire career, he's only got a 3.6% drop rate. He can catch balls contested, but I would like to see his contested catch go up a little bit. It's not the greatest, but he's not a guy that you do that to. He's not the X that you throw up. He just don't. So he's not really used to it. And I think the Chiefs, man, we're just going to find ways to get him the ball in space and let him move. I just think Arizona had trouble with that. And I think Andy Reid knows how to do it. I think they're going to use them I think they're going to pull out the old Tyreek Hill blueprint. I think you're going to see that. We finally got a receiver that can do it. I know Mecole Hardman that's why we drafted him, to think he could do it. I just don't think he could do it. I think it was just too big for him. I think Marquise Brown can do it. I think Hollywood can do it, man. But yeah. That's all I got for you guys today. I appreciate you guys. Again, we'll jump back on here. One of us will, if Sneed gets traded or any kind of breaking news there. But appreciate you guys being with me. Hit that like button on the way out if you don't mind. That would mean so much to me. Everybody that donated or become a member, Ron, HT Chiefs fan, Enrique, JCP, TGZ, all you guys, appreciate you, man, supporting. Appreciate the financial donations, man. It means a lot. Would love to make this a full-time job someday. And, yeah, man, I think it's going to open up a lot for us if we can do that. But I'm excited to get back into the draft and what this free agency is going to do for the Chiefs draft. It's going to be exciting. But, yeah, guys, I got to jump off. You guys have a good one. Hit that like button on the way out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend where to find the best Chiefs content there is in the game, baby. Go Chiefs.
Cause aside from my soul